Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is your tutor doctor from DB Tuitions. Now, this video is part 7 in which we are going to talk about the question 7 from AQA GCSE Biology Paper 1 June 2024. Now all my fams, listen carefully. Question 7 is not hard biology. It is high risk because students, that is my fams, are losing marks by missing simple logic, skipping steps, or not linking answers back to the topic, which is photosynthesis. If you understand this question properly, you are securing multiple guaranteed marks. We will go step by step exactly the way examiner expects. Now, if you have not seen the rest 6 questions of this paper 1 of triple science biology, I would strongly recommend go back and watch those videos because I do not do the entire paper in one go and making it 2 hours or a 3-hour video. I rather do question by question, keeping my videos under 20 minutes so that whenever you have time, you're quickly revising and learning the required points. So if you like my explanation, I would sincerely request you to hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and please do subscribe to my channel, DB Tuitions 09 on YouTube, TikTok, and on Instagram. Now let's move ahead with our question. Now, question 7.1 is a 5-marker question, and I'm going to always say this, the first thing, even in your exam, please pay attention to the number of marks, because while you're reading the question, if you know the number of marks, in your mind, you have set an expectation. Okay, 1 marker, I'm expected to write 1 or a couple of words or a couple of sentences. 5 marker, I need to be more detailed, logical explanation, step by step. So this is you setting expectation according to the marks, which is more important. Now let's look at the data given here. A student investigated the effect of different factors on photosynthesis. The student used 3 leaves growing on the same plant. Each leaf was treated in a different way. After 48 hours, the student tested each leaf for starch. Now, there's a table given, and the leaf tested, leaf 1, 2, and 3, and the treatment. So for 1, upper and lower surfaces were covered with black paper. For leaf 2, upper and lower surfaces were covered and sealed with transparent plastic, and the leaf 3 was not covered at all. Now, the one covered with the black paper on both the surfaces, there was no starch. The one covered with transparent plastic has also no starch, but leaf 3, there was starch present. Now, let's read the question. Explain the results for all 3 of the leaves. Now, what is this question testing? It is testing us the conditions needed. And what are these conditions for? For photosynthesis. So what are the conditions for photosynthesis? And it is trying to test the link between the sunlight, the carbon dioxide, and how starch is produced. Now, if we go ahead to the answer, for 5 marks, we are going to talk about all 3 leaves. So leaf 1, we're going to talk about that first. As you can remember, the leaf 1 was covered with black paper on both surfaces, that is on the upper side and on the underside. So any light, so that's important, the light could not reach the leaf, right? It could not reach the leaf here. Now, without light, their photosynthesis could not occur. So, no photosynthesis. So, if photosynthesis did not occur, there is no starch present. So that's the result of the first leaf explained. Similar to leaf 1 is leaf 2. Now remember, this was covered and sealed with plastic. Now, because this was transparent plastic, although light could reach the leaf. So because it was transparent, light could reach the leaf, but the carbon dioxide was unable to enter. The CO2 was not able to enter. So therefore, again, the same, the photosynthesis, there was no photosynthesis, and hence there was no starch produced. I'm sorry, I'm using a bit of a short form because I don't want this video to be too lengthy, but I am speaking in full sentences, which as you can hear and then follow. Now let's talk about leaf 3. Now this was not covered. So this was not covered. It had access to light and carbon dioxide both. So therefore, photosynthesis took place. Now this is important, and therefore starch has been produced. Now at here right now it's important to kind of think. So carbon dioxide, right, plus, remember the photosynthesis equation. Carbon dioxide plus water in the presence of sunlight is giving you glucose plus oxygen. This is one of those important symbol equations. This is not a balanced equation here, but you need to know the balanced symbol equation for photosynthesis. You don't have to give the chemical equation for photosynthesis. This is just for your reference so that you can understand. So carbon dioxide and light are very important in this situation. Now I'm going to give you a mnemonic for this, that is conditions for photosynthesis, which is LCPS. Now, L for light, present or absent. It makes a difference. If the light is present, you can expect photosynthesis to happen, but the other factors have to be present as well, such as C for carbon dioxide, it has to be present. Now remember, light and carbon dioxide both must be present for photosynthesis to take place. And P, that is when you're deciding photosynthesis happens or not, and then S, whether the starch is present or not. For photosynthesis to happen, it is assumed that water cannot be a limiting factor. When it comes to a limiting factor, it is the light or carbon dioxide. So as an examiner, I will say you must mention photosynthesis. You must explain each leaf separately to get those all 5 marks, and listing just the results, because the results are already given in the table. If you just list those results without explaining them the way we have done, it means you are losing marks. Now well done if you got that right. Now let's move on to question number 7.2. Again, we can see that 7.2 is only for 1 mark, so either one sentence or a couple of words. Now let's read the question. In another investigation, the student used a different type of plant. The plant was left uncovered in the light for 48 hours. After 48 hours, the student tested a leaf from the plant for starch. The figure 6, so there's a figure of a leaf given which has both green and white parts. It is showing the leaf before it was tested for starch. Now, as you can see, the question is asking us complete table 4 to show the results you would expect for the starch test on the leaf in figure 6. So they're asking us part of the leaf which was tested, both green and white, and the result after 48 hours. Now remember, only the green parts of a leaf contain chlorophyll, which is needed for photosynthesis. Therefore, starch will be present only in the green areas. So therefore, in the green part, we are going to write starch present. And remember, just writing starch present is not going to be enough. We're going to write the color blue, black. And then The white part, there is no starch. Please do not write white part has less starch. That's a common mistake. You have to clearly mention that the white part has no starch. Now moving on to 7.3, it is a 2 marker, so the maximum sentences is 3 or a minimum of 2 sentences or 2 points explaining the concept. Explain the results you gave in question 7.2. Now remember, chlorophyll absorbs light energy for photosynthesis. So green parts means you have identified that they have chlorophyll and that's absorbing the light energy. You're going to mention that in your first sentence, right? And this is needed for photosynthesis. That's your first mark there. And again, white parts here do not contain, there is no chlorophyll. Yes, and therefore there is no photosynthesis. And if photosynthesis does not take place, there is no starch produced. Hence, chlorophyll absorbs light energy for photosynthesis. So the difference it makes is presence of chlorophyll, green color, absence of chlorophyll, white color. And there you go, you got your 2 marks. Well done. Now moving on to the next question, 7.4. Again, it's a 1 marker. We are expected to write 1 word or 1 sentence. Let's read the question. In some leaves, the green parts become yellow because of an ion deficiency. Which ion is deficient in a plant with yellow leaves? The correct answer here is magnesium. Now, this is a factual recall question. You need to remember this. Magnesium is needed to make chlorophyll. Without magnesium, less chlorophyll is produced, causing the leaves to turn yellow. So therefore, deficiency of magnesium, the leaves will turn yellow. And the mnemonic I'm going to give here is mag for green. So therefore, no magnesium, no green color. Well done for getting that right as well. Let's move on to question number 7.5. Give the scientific term that describes the yellow color of the leaves. Now, this is again very specific factual recall question. So the scientific term for yellow leaves is chlorosis. Once again, chlorosis. Must use this term. Just write yellowing. As an examiner, I have seen that by some of the farms writing yellowing, that is not scoring the mark. This is the specific term for yellowing of leaves, chlorosis. Now moving on to question 7.6, which is again for 1 mark. Let's read the question. The rate of photosynthesis is affected by different factors. How could the oxygen produced during photosynthesis be used to measure the rate of photosynthesis? Now, this question is asking us, how are we going to use oxygen to measure the rate, that is, how fast the photosynthesis is happening? Now, the rate of photosynthesis can be measured by counting the number of oxygen bubbles produced, and that is per minute. So, once again, counting the number of oxygen bubbles produced per minute. So, there is another way you can do that as well. I'm going to list that here as well. Or by measuring the volume of oxygen produced. So either by measuring the volume of oxygen produced or by counting the oxygen bubbles produced per minute. Now, what is important here whenever we are answering rate questions is that you have to measure the time, even when measuring the volume of oxygen produced in a set time, because you're measuring the rate, the speed. So therefore you must include time. And just saying measuring oxygen is very vague and will not get you the mark. Now let's progress on to the next question, which is 7.7. Before going there, let's actually look at the data given for this question. Light, carbon dioxide, and temperature are limiting factors of photosynthesis. Figure 7 is showing how the rate of photosynthesis is affected by light, carbon dioxide, and temperature. Here, as you can see, they've given us a graph kind of style in which we've got our y-axis as rate of photosynthesis and then the light intensity on x-axis. And you can see a few lines given down there, and each of those lines how much percentage of carbon dioxide and temperature. And they've given you at that level of CO2 and at that particular temperature what is the rate of photosynthesis. Now, please be aware of the numbers being very close yet very far. There's a lot of difference between 0.4% and 0.04%. Please be aware of that. Now let's look at the question. At point A on figure 7, light is a limiting factor. What is meant by a limiting factor? So here they are not asking you to interpret anything from the figure. They just say at point A, light is a limiting factor, and they're asking the general definition of a limiting factor. So a limiting factor is a factor that when in short supply, so that factor is in a short supply, it limits the rate of photosynthesis. That is what a limiting factor is. So for example, you want to make 100 cakes, okay, and one cake requires 1 egg, but you only have 80 eggs, then you're limited for making only 80 cakes. So therefore, eggs become the limiting factor in manufacturing of the cake. Exactly, a limiting factor is a factor that when in short supply limits the rate of photosynthesis. So remember, the slowest factor controls the speed. That's the statement you need to remember. Now let's move on to question 7.8, and this is a 4-marker. It's asking us, again, the command word explain. So the maximum sentences you're expected to kind of write is 4 or 5 or maximum of 6, not more than that. Explain the effect of increasing temperature and increasing carbon dioxide concentration on the rate of photosynthesis shown in figure 7. Now, understanding here, we are talking about temperature and carbon dioxide. How are they affecting the speed at which the photosynthesis is happening? 2 factors, okay? And you have to give the explanation, and you also have to give the comparison. Now, this is what important you have to understand. Now, if we look at here, the temperature increasing, the rate of photosynthesis is increasing as the enzymes are working faster. Now, when the temperature, now let's actually look at this graph. 2 different temperatures, but same level of CO2. Again, same level of CO2, 2 different temperatures, so that you can easily compare. But in both the cases, if you can see, when the temperature is 25 degrees centigrade and 25 degrees centigrade, the rate of photosynthesis is dependent on the level of carbon dioxide. Higher the level of carbon dioxide, then you can see more is the rate of photosynthesis. So based on this, we are going to formulate our answer. So we are going to write, as temperature increases, the rate of photosynthesis is increasing because the enzymes are working faster. Yeah? And then, however, when the temperature, if temperature is too high, the enzymes denature, causing the rate to decrease. Now, when we increase the CO2 concentration, again, rate of photosynthesis increases. The rate increases because carbon dioxide is an important reactant in photosynthesis. And again, once another factor becomes limiting, like temperature, even increasing the CO2 has no further effect. This is a simple concept, but you just need certain patience to understand that. Now, enzymes are faster initially, and the rate of photosynthesis is increasing. And once enzymes denature at higher temperatures, so we are going to go back here and have a look. So as at 15 degrees centigrade and 0.04% of carbon dioxide, you can see that it is increasing and then flattening out. Then we increase the temperature a little bit more, the enzymes for faster, but then again here, they are flattening out. The graph is plateauing, telling that the rate of photosynthesis increase was only up until then. Now you have increased the same temperatures, but you've increased the carbon dioxide to 0.4%. That's almost a 10 times increase. Now you can see that, therefore, the rate of photosynthesis increased as well. And again, at the same level of CO2, you further increase the temperature, then the rate increased, but then it plateaued again. So remember, faster the enzymes, then if too high, at optimum temperature, enzymes work faster, but if the temperature goes too high, enzymes denature. And also CO2 is also an important reactant that also makes a difference and can become a limiting factor. So this is the important takeaway for this question. Now let's move on to question number 7.9. Now this is a 1 marker and there is quite a bit of question type to read. So let's go ahead and do that. Photosynthesis investigations often use a light source. The spreading out of light from a source obeys the inverse square law. Now, the inverse square law links light intensity to distance from the light source. Which of the following shows the inverse square law? Now, what does the inverse square law says? As the distance increases, light intensity decreases following the inverse and square law. That means if you double the distance, the light intensity becomes 4 times smaller. So this is inverse proportion, as you've already learned in your GCSE mathematics. If one quantity increases, the other quantity decreases. So therefore, light intensity is inversely proportional to 1 over distance square. That's the correct one. Now, For question number 7, let's have a quick summary. Photosynthesis needs light, CO2 and chlorophyll. Only green parts make starch. Magnesium deficiency causes chlorosis, which is yellowing of the leaves. Now, what is a limiting factor is a factor in shortest supply. And inverse square law, always look out for the option which has 1 over distance squared. Now that completes question 7, one of the biggest scoring questions in GCSE Biology Paper 1. As you can see, this one carried 17 marks. Now, had you answered this question confidently, you're mastering photosynthesis, practical skills, and data interpretation, exactly what the examiners reward. If this video helped you, make sure you subscribe to my channel, DB Tuitions 09, because this is part of our complete AQA GCSE Biology Paper 1 question by question series. It is built to support all my FAMs so that you know how to be clear, examiner focused marks to be picked up. Now in the next video, I am going to finish the paper with question 8, and that is going to be on cell division and cancer. So don't miss out, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification so that whenever I upload the video, you will get it. So see you in the next one.